Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya wa sayyid al-mursaleen, Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Jazakumullahu ta'ala khairan for attending this webinar, and Jazakumullahu khairan Mukhlis for uh, volunteering to present this webinar. I don't need to introduce the topic. The topic is, of course, you're all familiar with, a text that is the standard almost for translating Arabic terms into English. And I'm sure Mukhlis also doesn't need an introduction. He's, mashallah, a student of Arabic, finishing his studies in Medina University, and we're quite fortunate to have him. So without holding it off too much, inshallah, Mukhlis, you can go ahead. And just before that, the worksheet that Mukhlis is going through is going to be shared on the chat, and you should have received an email regarding it as well. So if you'd like to access it, then inshallah just look in the chat and then you can access it.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Jazakallah khairan everyone for attending today's seminar. Those that are familiar with my teaching style know that I prefer to teach and have the students active. So not just sort of like lecture and have you guys just listening. And I there might be some people driving or cooking or something like that, and that's fine. But inshallah, there's a worksheet that hopefully you guys will be filling in, and I'll make it a little bit interactive, inshallah, with the worksheet. Now, Hans Wehr is a dictionary that a lot of people learning Arabic, like from the sort of English background, as an English speaker, is familiar with. And like here's a picture of the how it usually looks, like the green book, the classic green book. And like I remember when I was small, like I was learning Arabic in primary school, like at Nori, and my father he had a copy of Hans Wehr, but he didn't know how to use it. So sometimes he would look in Hans Wehr and he'd find the word, but many times he failed to find the word. And then we just sort of eventually realized Hans Wehr is a very complex dictionary, and there's no way we can use it. Later on, when I started my own Arabic journey, I got reintroduced to Hans Wehr, and I didn't really have someone direct me through it. But I found that Hans Wehr is probably the most useful dictionary, really, because like what are your other options? Even now, like your other options are you use Google Translate, or you use, for example, Al-Ma'ani, English Arabic, and maybe a few other things, but it doesn't really come as close to the usefulness of Hans Wehr. Now, someone actually asked me yesterday, he's like, do you still use Hans Wehr? Because alhamdulillah, I've progressed a fair bit in my Arabic journey. It's like 10 years on from when I first started, let's say, using Hans Wehr. And I say, yes, I do use it. I do use like Arabic dictionaries, which I'll talk about later on. But Hans Wehr is for me a very fast dictionary and is useful for its certain purposes. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in certain things. I'm going to try to talk while I fill in. And whatever I fill in, then you guys can write in as well. So who is Hans Wehr? Hans Wehr is a German, you could call him Orientalist. I don't even know how to spell that. I'm going to scrap that word. He's a lexicographer. Lexicographer, which means that he is he's an expert in dictionaries, right? And obviously expert in terms of Arabic dictionaries. He was a Nazi. He wrote basically an Arabic-German dictionary. So he wrote an Arabic-German dictionary. And then later on, maybe like 10 or 20 years after he did that, he eventually had that dictionary translated to English. And that became Hans Wehr, the Hans Wehr dictionary. So he's the guy that compiled the dictionary and was very involved in it. Cohen is the editor and was heavily involved in the translation process from English to German. Right. So what they did is they changed the words, the German words to English, because that's well known. So it actually started off as a German dictionary, but then became an English dictionary. Now I'm going to start by just talking about what the category of Hans Wehr is, like what was intended by this dictionary. And the category of a dictionary is very important in knowing the usage, because as you will find, inshallah, as you progress through your Arabic journey, is that there will be a very large number of different dictionaries that serve different purposes, and your choice of dictionary is going to impact the sort of results that you get out of that dictionary. So Hans Wehr, there's a few things that we need to know about Hans Wehr. The first is that it's written as for modern Arabic. And some of you will know that as MSA, Modern Standard Arabic. What does that mean? That means Hans Wehr looked at previous dictionaries, like for example, Lane's Lexicon, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and also the large corpus of Arabic dictionaries, which we're very proud of, because it's we've got, for example, Taj al-Arus, which is like 40 volumes, and it's massive, and we've recorded so much and preserved so much of these classic Arabic words. But from Hans Wehr's point of view, because he wanted a very practical dictionary, he says it's too much. Why do we need so many words that describe like camels, and so many words that describe tents, and so many words that are like Bedouin words that we're not going to use and we don't use anymore, just because like the way life has changed. So what he did is that he said, all right, we're going to get rid of all of those ancient words that we don't need. They're already preserved anyway in other dictionary. And I'm going to focus on modern Arabic, the modern usage. Now, so what does that mean? It means that or how did he actually choose the words? This is very, very important, right? Very, very important. What he did is he didn't, actually, just for a bit of background, right? What previous Arabic dictionaries did is they looked at what other dictionaries did, and they took all these massive words, and then they just added to it, or changed the order of it, or added the explanation of it, or change certain things here and there. But literally, they would just keep growing it, right? And they would include everything that previous people said, and they would just grow the dictionary, right? But Hans Wehr got rid of all of that, and he said, look, I'm going to look at modern writers. So, for example, modern at his time, 1960s, right? So, for the writers that, for example, he would look at, for example, Ahmed Shawqi, Khalil Gibran Khalil, he would look at those writers and take the words that they would use. Those are like writers, as in they're poets, and they would write plays, and they would write essays, and he would take the words that they use. He'd also look very extensively at Arabic newspapers of those times and take the words that would be used. And that was what made up modern Arabic for him. And then he compiled his dictionary that way. First, he compiled it in German, and then when they compiled it in English, they added extra words. So the first is that it's modern standard Arabic. And we're going to put that in a pro of Hans Wehr in the next section as well. The other thing is that he wanted it to be concise, which means that he didn't try to put in every single word that was possible. He's not trying to have everything. He just wants to have the words that are useful and the words that are going to be beneficial for a learner, which is basically what we're interested in. We also know there's Arabic-English. And we need to know that it was compiled in the 1960s, right? So those are the things that sort of comprise what the category of Hans Wehr is, okay? As a lexicographer, Hans Wehr did a very good job. The way that he compiled the dictionary, it is very precise. It doesn't have a lot of mistakes. So what are the pros of Hans Wehr? So let's say it is concise. That's probably the most useful thing for us. It's modern standard Arabic. So I'm just going to write MSA there. And that's very useful to us, because when you're reading modern writers, and I don't even mean modern writers as in a modern poet. What I mean by modern writers is someone that's writing a textbook, right, that you're reading, or someone that's writing an essay, or someone that's writing a newspaper article, right? They're going to use the words, the modern standard words, right? So that's the basis for the learner. So this sort of workshop is aimed towards the Arabic learner, sort of beginner, intermediate level, and it's perfect for that course. It also includes a lot of terminology, so I'll call modern terminology. So it will include things, modern things like televisions and modern terminology that you won't find in the ancient dictionaries. If you go to Lisan al-Arab, you won't find these words because they're modern words, right? So you won't even find them in Lane's lexicon, for example. So he used a lot of modern terminology. He occasionally includes things. For example, he includes a few colloquial words, but he'll actually make a note of that. So that's actually really good, useful. That you say that this word is used in the Levant, like in Syria and in Palestine, in this way. He will also mention sort of religious terminology, but he'll say this is, for example, a word used in Islamic law, and that's quite useful. He's also very accurate and in the way that he's compiles things, like he's got a very good understanding of Arabic and of linguistics. And here's one of the key things is that I would say that the dictionary is very fast. That's why I use it. So if I want to look up something, what are my options? I could Google it. I could try Al-Ma'ani. I could try Google Translate, which is not very accurate. Or I can use Hans Wehr and bang, I can get to the meaning straight away. Even if I find it's even faster than Arabic dictionaries. And you're going to also find probably the other key thing is that it's MSA. It's Modern Standard Arabic, and that is a key feature. Sure, we're going to find one of the challenges is that it's not going to include a lot of words that eventually you're going to get to. So, once you start to go into poetry, once you start to go into reading earlier texts, you're going to find terminology that doesn't exist in Hans Wehr, and that's fine, because that's not what Hans Wehr was written for. Then, if you reach that stage, inshallah, then you can go to use Al-Qamus al-Muhit or other dictionaries that are Arabic, and we'll include those words. All right. So what are the three challenges or cons of Hans Wehr? And the first one is what I'm going to focus on in this. The first is basically your learning curve, or the fact that it's I'm going to put it in exclamation mark. It's difficult. It's a difficult dictionary to use for beginners, right? And why is that difficult? Because it requires knowledge of sarf. You need to know how Arabic words work. And basically what the focus of today's workshop is going to be. I'm going to try to give you an overview of that. I'm not going to be able to teach you all of sarf, unfortunately, because it's too much. And my difficulty in this workshop is that, you guys will have to be at different levels, and there'll be some like quite advanced and someone that's quite beginner. So I'm going to try to hit the middle spot, inshallah, and try to hit the sweet spot. But forgive me if it goes a bit over your head, and feel free to mention things in the chat. I'll just keep an eye on the chat, and if there is anything, then feel free to mention it. I'll either address it straight away, or I'll return to it later, inshallah. So feel free to comment. The second is that it will not include many classical words / usages. So for example, there might be a word that we even use now, and the way that Hans Wehr translated it is different to the classical usage of that word. So the word has actually evolved over time, right? So this is a problem, as I mentioned. However, you'll find, for example, like the Arabic learner's main concern probably is just with Quran. And you'll find that because Quran has become a central point, and to a lesser degree, Hadith, in the Islamic world, the words of the Quran generally have been preserved. So most of the words in the Quran are still going to be there in Hans Wehr. Not that you really should be using Hans Wehr to do a translation of the Quran, but it will still give you a very good understanding of things like that. So it's not a big problem for a beginner. This number 2 is not a point for the beginner. What do you do when you get to that point? You start to use more advanced dictionaries. So if the more advanced English Arabic dictionaries, which I mentioned later, and I also mentioned a few other Arabic dictionaries. So use more advanced dictionaries to solve this problem, right? So the solution. Number 3 is that Hans Wehr was written in the 1960s, right? So there have been changes from 1960 to now. That's like 60 years. 60 years is a long time, right? So changes since 1960. You notice that, for example, very good English dictionaries, like Oxford, they actually constantly update the dictionary because words change, new words come up very, very fast now because of the internet. And they start as slang words and then they become like mainstream, right? And that's what happens in Arabic as well. And this is a problem as well because Hans Wehr hasn't really been updated. I think there have been newer versions, but I haven't even looked at those. However, for the most part, that's not a big problem for the English learner. And that's primarily because modern standard Arabic has been influenced massively by English. So the English learner is at a massive advantage because you'll find that a lot of words or word usages are very similar to English. Like Arabic has started, modern standard Arabic that is, has started to absorb a lot of the English words or the usage of words in a very similar way to English. I'll give you an example. Actually, I was in a class and the professor was talking and he said, "Oh, in slang we use the word dish. نستخدم كلمة dish, right? Like dish. and he was referring to satellite dish. And he said, like, this is a slang word that we use. And I pointed out to him, instead, this is an English word which means like sahan. It's like a dish, literally. And he was surprised. He didn't know this was an English word at all. He just thought that was a slang word that they used to talk about satellite dishes. Anyway, so like, for example, you had a massive advantage. So this is not a big problem. And a lot of Arabic terminology, they actually they'll use like compound words to explain things, right? So both of the words will be known. They'll just use it in a new way or something like that. But this is also a problem in the sense that, for example, like Oxford Upstate's dictionary, the Oxford actually have their own Arabic English dictionary, but it's behind a paywall, the online version, and I haven't really looked into it, but they do update it. But the thing is that in the Muslim world, we're actually very behind. If you look back at the time of, for example, Khalil Ahmed Farahidi, like the 2nd century Hijri, that is, the Muslims were at the forefront of the world in terms of lexicography. We wrote like the biggest dictionaries that existed in the world and the most accurate dictionaries. And there was a lot of action that was happening at that time. There were certain periods where it stopped again and then it started again. And even in the modern times, like the first Arabic dictionaries that started in the modern era, which was about 150 years ago, it started by Christians. So the Christian Lebanese in Lebanon actually were sort of at the forefront of that. And Muslims have been behind. And even to this day, like, for example, really it should be the Arabic Institute in Egypt, Majma' al-Lugha in Qahira. They really should be the ones that are inventing the new words and saying, all right, this is an Arabic word, and changing the words to fit the Arabic usage, but they haven't really kept up to it. All right, I'm going to move on, inshallah. If there are any questions, you guys can write it in the chat. Inshallah, this is going to be recorded so that you can follow up if there's anything that you missed as well. First, I'm going to mention that the learning difficulty, kind of number one, a lot of people have known of this learning difficulty, and Professor Fatima Khan, don't really know much about her, but I did send some emails to her and she replied. She came up with a dictionary called Arabic Students Dictionary. For some reason, it doesn't say that it's Hans Wehr, but from my interaction with her, she said that it is from Hans Wehr. All the words are from Hans Wehr, and she actually takes the difficulty out of it by allowing you to search directly for a word, right? I'm not going to go into this today. I think this dictionary, this website, ArabicStudentsDictionary.com, has some problems with it. There's some like mistakes, but she's fixing it. She's actually, mashallah, active in I pointed out some mistakes and she fixed it up. So I'm not going to go through that, but that is a resource to use. But I want to teach you how to properly use Hans Wehr, because a student of Arabic should know how to use it anyway. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you with demonstration using the website Ejtad. So here it is, and here's like Hans Wehr, basically a scan of it. It's very useful because I can search, right? I can search here, and it becomes very fast, right? It also contains other dictionaries. You do one search, it'll come up, and it'll bring up the same thing with Lang's lexicon, which we're not going to go through today. But just for FYI's sake, that's what I'm going to do, inshallah. You can follow with that, or you can download on your app. For example, if you Google Hans Wehr, either in the Play Store or in the App Store, whatever, you'll find the dictionary and you can use it on your phone. All right. So I'm going to go through 3 steps today, inshallah, in today's meeting. I'm going to try to keep it, we'll be done by the hour. So we started at my time 10:30, Sydney time 6:30. We'll finish by 7:30 or by 11:30, inshallah. So the first thing is finding the actual entry. How do we start? All right. Now, first, I'm going to mention 3 categories of words. Obviously, there's different categories of words. And you might think, I was going to say ism harf, fi'al harf, but no, I'm not. I'm just going to, from a practical perspective on how to use Hans Wehr. The first is non-Arabic words. Non-Arabic words that are transliterated. Right? So that's the first category of words, and you need to know that you search for these alphabetically. So just the way it is, you search it and you'll find it in Hans Wehr that way, right? So non-Arabic words that are transliterated, example would be like tilfaz. And we're going to come through examples in a second that you're going to see. All right. So you just search for those alphabetically. Like alphabetically, the term is abtafi, using alif, ba, ta, tha, right? That order. There is another word which they say abjadi, which is a different order and is actually related to Arabic's origins as a Semitic language. It's not an Arabic order of words, it's actually a Semitic order of words, which we don't really use now, except in certain formal circumstances when we list. Anyway, alif bata. All right. The second category of words which we're going to focus on, it's going to be our focus for today, is going to be Arabic words. Arabic words or Arabicized words. Arabicized. I don't know how you spell that. Arabicized. It's Arabicized words. Maybe you can see. I don't know. I'm not an English teacher. That have a 3-letter root. Okay, this is important. So then that's going to be the focus of today, and that's 95% of Arabic. Traditional Arabic always has mostly has a 3-letter root, 95%. There are a lot of Arabicized words. What do I mean by that? They're not originally Arabic words, and then they became Arabic, and they followed the Arabic system of sarf, of the way of making the word work. So they fit into the same system and use the same system. The other ones are Arabic words that have 4 or 5-letter roots, which I'm not going to focus on because they're quite rare, but they do occur. So I'm just going to focus on how to, the 90% of the words that are Arabic words that have a 3-letter root. Okay. Now with these, you don't search alphabetically. Do not search alphabetically. You search by the root. Search by the root. So you need to find the 3-letter root and you type that in, or you search according to that 3-letter root. Now, why are they just ordered alphabetically? Now, that's a good question. Why all the difficulty? Why have this learning curve? Right? It's because that's the way the Arabic dictionaries work. Because Arabic, for example, you would change the first letter of a word, of a verb, according to its conjugation. So you say, for example, ana adhabu, and you will say anta tadhabu, and you will say nahnu nadhabu. Now, if we have to make a different entry for the word in hamza and in ta and in the and noon, sorry, for all of the same verbs, it's gonna like make the dictionary massive and gonna be really annoying. So they actually get rid of all of this. They say every word that's related to the root is going to be under that entry. So that's why they sort of take that way. And that's the way all Arabic dictionaries work, basically. They're not ordered alphabetically because in English, for example, English really focuses on the suffix at the end of the word. So the beginning of the word stays the same. So it's very easy just to have everything alphabetically. But it's just because of the, let's say the root system is the most efficient way to have you to organize your dictionary, right? And don't forget, before dictionaries are printed, so you want to have efficiency because you don't want to have this massive dictionary. You want to have it as efficient as possible, right? Maybe it's a little bit of a less issue now if we're talking about like electronic dictionaries, because the computer can get rid of everything and take you to the right entry, which is the point of that this website here. But there's a lot of benefits from actually being able to search the traditional Hans Wehr or being able to search the scanned version, which we're going to be doing. All right, how do you work out the root letters of any word that we've come up? There's 2 ways. So the first way is basically guess, right? And ideally, that's what you end up doing. You have an intuition and you say, look, the root word's this. You might be wrong, which essentially you won't find the word, then you just have to try again, right? But it's not a really big deal. So, all right, that's what happens. The first way is guess. The second word is your knowledge of sarf patterns. Now, if you know your sarf patterns really well, straight away, bang, you're able to pick up the root letter. And I'm gonna help you a little bit with number 2, but I'm not gonna be able to take you that far because it's only a short seminar. Right? Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a bit of time with the following, and I'm gonna give you a minute head start on me. Now, the following words, how would you search them up in the dictionary? Let me give you an example. All right, so let's say, for example, the word, give me any word. Let's say the word kitab, right? Now, it's the second category. It's an Arabic word that has a 3-letter root, and the letter root is ka, ta, ba. I'm not going to focus on finding the actual word kitab. How do I get to the root? I'll take the words ka, ta, ba, and I would write that without spaces in my Hans Wehr here. So I would write ka, ta, ba. Now here's a note. I highly recommend, they actually allow you to search with English letters in the transliteration system. I recommend that you don't, and I recommend that you have an Arabic keyboard and you learn the Arabic keyboard. There's a lot of benefits to being able to have an Arabic keyboard and knowing how to type in it. So write the 3-letter root, bang, that takes you to the entry. And eventually we'll get to look the tab. But I'll explain how to actually like look within the entry soon, right? It's going to come. But I just want you guys to work out for me what the 3-letter root is, or what you would type in, or what you would search Hans Wehr with. All right. So let me give you 1 minute, inshallah, to have a look at these words and ideally get started. All right. Now, those that know how I teach know that I usually like you guys. I'm recording it as well. It's fine. So those that know how I teach know that I usually like you guys to tell me the answers instead of me telling you. But we're going to run out of time if we do that. So I'm just going to tell you the answers. تقرأ is a فعل مضارع verb, present tense, and it's either for enter or for here. So I would actually cross out the ta because that's the conjugation for enter or here. That's like not part of the main verb. So I would search up the words qara and a. All right, and that's how I get to that. And we're gonna look at that verb in a second. The second word is the word studio. Now, straight away, as soon as I hear that word, I'm not gonna bother looking for a 3-letter root. I'm just gonna like look it up alphabetically. So I would type in, or if you're looking for the paper version, you go seen, ta, well, da, and you look studio, and you know, it's pretty obvious. It's the word studio. All right. Now the word mukhlis is really important. Oh, actually over here. If you want to know the letters that you cross out, we're going to be doing a bit of crossing out. The letters that you cross out are one of these letters: Sin, Hamza, Lam, Ta, Mim, Waw, Na, Noon, Ya, Ha, or Alif. Those are letters that you cross out. You don't cross out letters other than that, generally, right? But that doesn't mean every sin and every ta and every meme you cross out. But those are the letters that generally you can cross out. And there's a mnemonic, it's Sa'altumuniha, which means you asked me it. But anyway, an ism, for example, the word my name, usually the meme is an extra letter. So we're going to cross out the meme, and that's going to give me the root qa, la, sa. Right? Tafsir. Right? We're going to go into this pattern very briefly today. But the ta and the ya is extra. And we're going to go fa, sa, ra. Now, how would you know? I said, number 1, guessing. Number 2, my knowledge of soft pattern. That's taf'eed. Right? The next thing is muba'thara. What am I going to do here? I'm going to cross out the meme, right? It's an extra letter. And the ta is an extra letter because it's feminine in that usage. They become ba'thara, and this is actually a 4-letter root, right? So you just search up the 4-letter root ba'thara. Sayastami'una. Once we get to this, my knowledge of Arabic means that sin is present tense, so that's is a future tense, so that's crossed out. The ya is also and the waw and the noon is also crossed out because those are part of the conjugation. Yaf'aluna, right? So then I've got 4 letters: sin, ta, mim, and ayn. And if I want to get a 3-letter root, which in this case, I'm going to cross out the ta. So that's going to give me sin, mim, and ayn. Now, how do I know that it's not a 4-letter root? It's just like knowledge. It's just that's the learning curve, I suppose, of adverb. But you know, most of the time I said it's a 3-letter root. This ba'thara was rare. I put it in because I didn't really want to cross out any of those letters, right? I don't even think any of those letters are letters of ceremony. Yeah. All right, next one, diplomacy. Right, straight away, it's an English word. Diplomacy. Right, and you just look it up alphabetically. Yatakallamu. The ya is part of the conjugation. And then for my knowledge of sarf, I'm going to say the ta is crossed off. There's 2 lambs there because of the shadda. I'm going to cross off one of the lam. So I'm just going to have ka, la, ma. Right, that's my guess. Knowledge of the patterns will tell me for sure. Yatashajarani. Does anyone has a guess before I just tell everyone? Anyone want to type in?
Shajara.
Right. Yeah, very good. Very good. Right. So yeah, the tag goes away, alif goes away, and the alif noon is for dual form. So the root letters is actually sha, ja, ra. Right. Excellent. Very, very good. I don't know whether we'll look through this later. I don't know whether I put it later. Yatashajarani means it's two people basically that are arguing, right? And it's strange because shajara is like a tree, but it's sort of like, intertwining things. It comes in the Quran as well too, with the meaning of arguing. Yatashajarani, two people arguing. All right. Now, there's a major difficulty in determining the root. Here, I chose things where all of these words are basically straightforward in a sense, but the major difficulty in determining the root is when you have weak letters. Does anyone want to tell me what the weak letters are in Arabic? When you have weak letters. The Arabic term is huruf illa. Does anyone want to tell me what the weak letters are?
So the alif, waw, and ya.
Alif, waw, and ya. Excellent. So it's alif, waw, and ya, right? And also related to them is also hamza, because hamza is like semi-weak and sometimes has changes. Hamza sometimes changes into waw or ya, or sometimes waw ya changes to hamza. So it's semi-weak. Now, whenever you have these inside your word, they change a lot from a waw to a ya to an alif. According to the rules of sarf, there's rules that govern all of those changes, but it's a big headache, right? Now, what's the solution? I mentioned the note first. The note is that alif is never a root letter, right? When you have a three-letter root, the Arabs never made alif a root letter, right? If there's an alif in a word, it's either extra or is the waw that changes to an alif or yeah that changes to alif. So alif is never a root letter. Your root letter is either waw or yeah, right? So you basically search with either what waw or yeah. So you try one of the two, and you might not know is it waw or yeah. We'll understand what we mean in a second. But is it waw or is it yeah? And sometimes the hamza might come in play. But is it okay? You don't know, but you just try one. If it's not, then try the other one. It's relatively straightforward. And this is a big difficulty. And if you find this difficult, then don't worry because everyone finds it difficult. To the point that a lot of like Arabic lexicographers, like the people that wrote the Arabic dictionaries, ancient, 1,000 years ago, they made mistakes, and there's a lot of discussion. Sometimes they say, no, this is right, no, it's actually a while, no, it's actually yeah, and they have discussions and they get it wrong as well. Then, so it's a very difficult thing to do, to get it right. So you just try one of the two, and you actually learn a lot by going through this process. All right, so here all of these words have as root letters. Let's see how we look it up. Ishara. Okay, I'm going to give everyone a minute to try to try to write up the root letters, or how you look up each of those words. Okay, Bismillah. Now, what's happening here is that I'll cross this first letter off and the ta off with ishara, and you have a sheen and an alif and a ra left. Now, I saw brother Muhammad, or brother Rayyan actually, said sha alif, sheen alif ra, but alif is never a root letter. So if you search in Hans words, sheen alif ra, it won't give you an answer. You need to either search sheen waw ra or sheen ya ra, right? I won't tell you which of the two. You search one of the two, you'll find it, right? So it's not a really big deal. Taqwa's hard, we'll leave it to end. I think I was meant to go across. Sayyara. How would you find sayyara? Well, I would get rid of the tam al-buta. That's the first thing I'd get rid of. And I'm going to get rid of the alif. And I'm going to just leave myself with a seen, ya and a ra, or a seen, wa and ra. But most likely I'm going to try the ya, right? That's what I mean by these root letter things. Now, I just want to talk about the word sayyara a little bit. The word sayyara comes in the Quran. Does anyone know which surah? I went to the ayah, وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ. You know which surah?
Yusuf?
Surah Yusuf. Excellent, inshallah. Now, the word sayyara comes in the Quran. Everyone knows the word sayyara now means car. Now, does that mean that there was a car that came and picked up Yusuf alayhi salam from the well? It doesn't, right? Obviously, logically, right? It can't. So what happened is that sayyara was basically referring to the caravan, something that's yasiru, that's traveling, right? Now, what they did in modern times is that, wow, we've got this new device that travels and moves, and a lot of tools or ala in Arabic, we use the pattern fa'al, right? Like sayyar. So they said, look, the word sayyara fits perfectly for this usage. Let's call it sayyara, something that travels or flows or moves. And that's just an example of a very, very well Arabicized word. And that's really what we should be doing. We should be finding these new words and Arabicizing them in a really nice way that fits in with the Arabic system of words. But unfortunately, a lot of the time we just use English. You know. Anyway, the word istikhara. All right, the word istikhara is a very tricky one. I made it tricky on purpose. Later on, we're going to take in a few minutes that we would straight away cross off the alif, sin, and ta here. That's part of the pattern, right? And I'll cross the ta marbuta because that's added. So I would either ha, alif, and a ra. How do I know to cross off the sin from the pattern that I'm going to mention later? And from experience, you'll get this. It's going to be kha, ya, ra, or kha, wa, ra. Right? You try one of the two. I won't tell you which one. Right? But you can see how like the process is not too bad, right? Now it's going to get bad. Taqwa. All right. How do we set up taqwa? Here, I'm going to ask you guys to tell me. If I had a chocolate, or if we were in person, I give a chocolate to someone to tell me the right answer for taqwa. It has a 3-letter root. What's the 3-letter root that I look up? Taqwa, yeah, very good, but it's a good try, but no, it's not right. Very, very difficult, this one. No. All right. If you know, if you did some lectures about taqwa, this alif is extra in the pattern. This ta is actually extra. This ta is changed from a weak letter, right? So that ta is actually originally a waw and qa, and then the last one can be a waw or a ya. But I'll tell you that the right answer is waqaya, which means wiqaya, with protection. You might have heard taqwa is from wiqaya. It comes from waqaya. It also comes from the word fa, and then we say i, and then we say na. Faqina adab an-nar. Qi is actually the fi'l amr of waqa. Right? It's like a super difficult word because there's 2 weak letters in it. So the root letter is waqaya, or it could be, for example, yaqaya, or it could be waqawa, or something like that. We try one of those variations. Very difficult, right? Just to show you that it can get difficult. And the next one's also difficult. Awfu. I'm gonna go through it because we're gonna run out of time. We will delete the hamza from pattern. The waw is what we call waw al-jama'a, refers to a group of people. Now, what happens is we actually have a weak letter that's been omitted. So here we go wa, fa, wa, or wa, fa, ya, which is the right answer, or something like that, right? So we try one of those combinations. Again, 2 weak letters, very difficult, right? But again, they're not that common. So I'm just showing you like examples of how difficult it could get. All right, here's the longest word in the Quran. فَأَسْقَيْنَاكُمُوهُ. Let me give you 20 seconds to try to work out what the 3-letter root of فَأَسْقَيْنَاكُمُوهُ would be. Okay, I'm going to go through the answer. Apologies if anyone. Very good start. You got it right. First crossed off, right? The ha is crossed off because that's a pronoun at the end. The kumu is also crossed off. That's also a pronoun. This na is also another pronoun. There's 3 pronouns. This alif is actually extra. We use it in a certain verb pattern. So the actual pattern is sa, qa, ya, or we could say sa, qa, wa, right? We try the ya because the ya already exists. And that's how you'd find that word, right? I'm not going to go through the meaning. The purpose of this activity was just to get a feel for the first step of going through, which is finding the root entry, right? Now, let's say we found the root entry. Now we want to be able to navigate within the root entry, right? And I could show you on the browser, but I search up the word qara'a, right? Qara'a, right? And the word that we had before was taqra'u, right? So let's say I search up the word qara'a. So just to show you guys how I would do that in the website, I'll go qara'a, type it in, bang, and I get the same page that I've stuck here. It's the same page, right? So I've got to this page, and I'm going to look for where the verb entry starts, or the qara'a entry starts, which is, it's been cut off. There is a hamza here, right? You can see on this my screenshot, I cut it off. Right? There's a qara'a here. So this is where the entry starts, right? Now, what happens is you can see that there's this massive paragraph. Then this paragraph, and it continues. No, it doesn't continue. This is one big paragraph, right? Now, this first big paragraph is your verb paragraph, right? The first entry is your massive verb paragraph. Then secondly, you're going to get all your nouns come as separate entries after it, right? So every verb that's related to qara'a, qira'a, Quran, Qur'ani, istiqra, all of these words are going to come after it, and then it's going to start with other entries afterwards. You can see that it's indented as well. So your noun entries will come after, and all your verb entries will come straight away. Cool. All right. Now here you have a bit of a problem. So let me go through it in detail. Let me go through it in detail. This is why. Oh, that's really good. This is why I wanted it on the PDF so that I can annotate on it. All right. Now, one of the things you know about Hans Wehr is it doesn't have harakat, right? And the way that Hans Wehr dealt with that, which is actually a really good way, is he added transliteration, right? So here, before can I get everyone to turn to the last page? I put these appendix. I'm going to go through it very briefly, and hopefully I don't lose everyone when I do, right? Here, at the beginning of the table, this is appendix 2. Your normal verb, which has a Roman numeral number 1, right? It can be either fa'ala, fa'ula, or fa'ila, which you might know or you might not know. And then your fa'al mudari can either yaf'alu or yaf'ilu or yaf'ulu, right? So you have this problem with your level 1 verb in that you don't know the haraka of this middle letter, the ain, as they call, right? You have this difficulty. So here Hans Wehr tells you what it is, right? But he doesn't use harakat. What Hans Wehr does is it gives you the transliteration. In some ways, that's actually better because you find a lot of books have problems, mistakes with the harakat. Very easy to make mistakes with harakat. But with the transliteration, much less chance of mistake. So qara'a, we know that the ra has a fatha on it. It's not qari'a or qaru'a, it's qara'a, right? Now this second letter here, so this is the fi'l madi. This second letter here tells you it's either an A, I, or U, right? What that means is A is fatha, I is kasra, U is dhamma. So it means that the second letter of the mudari' is a fatha. So it's in this case, this is yaqra'u. It's telling this A is basically saying, hey, there's a fatha on the mudari'. Then it tells you the masdar. Right? This is what the masdar is, and he doesn't put harakats on it. He just gives you translation. The masdar qara'a, the masdar is qira'a, right? Now the problem with your level 1 verb is that the masdar is I wrote here in the table many, right? As in there's many different patterns. There's not one pattern. It's not necessarily known exactly what the masdar of a level 1 3-letter verb is. So he tells you in the brackets. That's what the bracket means. That's what the masdar is. Now, what is the masdar? The masdar is the noun that refers to the verb. You know, in technical terms, we say this is the verbal noun, right? So it means reading, for example, here, right? Then what he'll do, Hans Wehr, is he'll go through all the meanings of your level 1 verb. So he starts here with your level 1. The technical term is mujarrad, mujarrad verb. So he'll straight away, he doesn't write the number 1, but he'll go through straight away and talk about the number 1 verb. And he gives you different meanings. So first he starts and he'll give you to declaim or recite something, especially the Quran. Then he'll give you a semicolon. Semicolon here means new meaning, right? Oh, wait, sorry, the semicolon is in the bracket. This semicolon here, there's a new meaning, right? Here's another semicolon, new meaning, another semicolon, new meaning, right? So there's a first meaning, second meaning, third meaning, fourth meaning, right? If he puts comma means that he's giving you 2 words that are that's a synonymous. Declaim and recite necessarily have to be synonymous, but you choose the right word. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But what's the most suitable word in your context? But he'll give you different words usages. Then he'll give this like sort of dash thing, and he'll give you the word used in certain contexts. So Qara alayhi salam, we're going to talk about that in a second. Here's certain words that are sort of we call these idiomic expressions, where it's not necessarily literally reading. Qara alayhi salam means to give salam, as we say, in sort of Muslim English, but to greet someone, right? So he'll give you idiomatic expressions or in context, right? And this is pretty cool. But remember, it's not classical. Lane's lexicon or other bigger dictionaries will give you much more of the classical usages, but here he's stuck to modern usages, right? Now he's going to start with his Roman numeral number 4. Hopefully you know Roman numerals. And there's another one, number 10, right? So what he says is this verb has a number 4 level to it and number 10 level, number 10 form, right? Which means I have to talk about the other forms of it, which we're going to do in Appendix 2. So you can write here, Appendix 2. Because Appendix 2 is what it's going to tell you these forms, right? And this is one of the features of the verb. So let's quickly go back to the table there. And these are in Arabic we call mazid fihi, right? So what happens is that you can get a normal level 1 verb and you can modify it in different ways. Now, this Roman numeral system is an Orientalist system. So you'll find that a lot of Orientalists use this system. Hans Wehr used it as well. He didn't invent it, but he just used what other people use. But these are not used by Arabs. For example, if you look in Qamus al-Mu'jam al-Wasit, right? They basically have these same things, but they don't use the same order. The order that they use is different. They use number 4 before number 2, for example. The Arabs don't have the same system. If you go and ask an Arabic teacher that's Arabic and say, oh, this is the form 5 verb, they'll be like, what? Right? They don't know this stuff, right? But this is what you do in Hans Wehr. The actual app has a very useful tab that you can look at the verb forms. What I did when I was learning Arabic is I made myself a bookmark, which is basically this, right? And I advise you do that as well. Make yourself a bookmark, and these are your 10 verb forms. The rest of the table is derived from this, right? And ideally, mastering this table is something that you do eventually, right? And it's there as your reference. You have it as part of this printout. So what happens in form 1 to 2 is that the ayn has a shadda on it, so there's 2 ayns. Fa'ala, here an alif is added. Af'ala, these are added letters, not part of the root, right? But they're added into these forms. Each of these forms actually has a nice meaning about it, but we're not going to talk about that in no time. And then each of these forms has a defined mudari', doesn't change. It's always like there's no harakat that are funny or anything like that. It's set like that. The masdar is also set, except here, which has 2 commonly used masdar, but it's set, right? Your verbal noun here, your fi'al ismul fa'il. So these are sort of derived nouns. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but basically your derived nouns are set in this table, right? So what it means is if you end up getting a verb or a derived noun from a certain pattern, right? So for example, in Qara'a, we had level 4 and level 10. So if the original verb, just to give you an idea of things, is Qara'a, here in level 4, I would put before, and I would make it, I know my Arabic, my writing is, it'd be Aqra'a, Af'ala, right? And here I'll put قارأ in terms of فعل, and I would add it ist, so it'll be istaqra'a. I know for some people this will be very fast because it's new, but you'll get used to this, right? So you come across words like istaqra'a, or for example, one of the related verbs here, and you'll need to be able to refer back to the fact that it is a level 10 verb. So that's what it means over here once he goes to these. So he talks about what aqra'a mean and istaqra'a mean. All right. All right, so that's going through that. I know this is what takes practice. This is part of one of the main things we'll be learning for. All right. So, but what we're doing, we're trying to get to the right sort of section of the qara entry. The qara entry starts here and ends here, right? So if it's a verb or a derived noun, which I'm going to mention in a second, we look mainly at the first big paragraph. Other nouns, we will go through the separate entries that come after it. All right. Now, what happens with nouns? Most common nouns are listed. So Hans Wehr actually does a very good job of putting the common nouns. For example, qira'ah was your masdar here, right? Now, what a lot of Arabic dictionaries or most dictionaries will do is they'll say, hey, there's no more there's no reason to give a separate entry of qira'ah because it should be understood that it's the, so you should be able to use your knowledge of sarf to say, hey, it means recitation or it means pursuing or whatever, right? Studying. But here what he does is he separates it, right? So he puts the word qira'ah there, right? And then he'll mention, for example, that's a transliteration. And then he'll add at, which means qira'at. It's the sound feminine plural, is the plural of it, right? I'm not going to go through the abbreviations that Hans Wehr uses because they're actually quite clear, I find, like things like plural, someone, something. We'll get to it. Some, for example, all right, if you look at the word, back in the thing, if we had a look at the word qara'a, and I wanted to find the ismul fa'il of qara'a, I put it into the pattern fa'il, become qari'. So what some dictionaries might do, and what Hans Wehr will do sometimes, is he won't actually put the word qari' as a separate entry, and he will say you should be able to derive that yourself. Qari' is a person who does the qira'ah, right? The reader, right? But here he puts a separate entry in, and I find that he does that a lot, and it actually helps you because you find it there. But sometimes he doesn't. Some nouns require your self-ability to derive it. If it's an ismul fa'il, masdar, ismul maf'ul, you need your own ability to derive it. All right, what I'm going to do, because of time, I sort of mentioned some of these. I'll just write the answers to it. Unfortunately, we don't have time because I don't know how time is flying because we're having so much fun. It's qari' here. Qari'. Ism maf'ul is maqru', which is also mentioned there. Maqru', something that's read. Right, it's also mentioned here. That's a good entry. But you should be able to derive it. That's the point. Fi'l mudari', the level 4 verb was aqra'a, but the fi'l mudari' is yuqri'u. Dhamma, yuqri'u. Now note here, there's nothing that tells you about yuqri'u. You should know that yourself from your knowledge of sarf. And that's one of the difficulties here. That yuqri'u, you would search in this section over here. Number 10, the masdar is istaqra yastaqru istiqra. Istiqra. Right? And thankfully, istiqra actually has its own separate entry. Yeah, istiqra means to examine something or he also tells you to check qarawa, because qarawa is also a potential route for that. Some more discussion. Yeah, that's the masdar for that. For some activities, but all right. Now, how do we choose the right meaning? Now, there's something else that we need to know before we're able to choose. There's actually two things we need to know. Now, one is when you had the word, for example, taqra'u, if you want to correctly translate that, you need to know that that verb is conjugated. If you have the verb, for example, if you have the word iqra'u, right? You need to know how that's translated to get the accurate translation, right? Because all they'll have here in this paragraph here is they will have the basic verb of it, and then you have to conjugate it yourself. Now, conjugations, here, write this down, appear in Appendix 2. These conjugations, right? So, conjugation, you have your basic conjugation, and then you conjugate it to different verbs, and you have your between your madi, mudari, and you have these different verbs, which I'm not going to be able to go through. Running out of time. That's sort of assumed knowledge. But here, look, the table's there for you as you reference. So, for example, I said iqra'u, that's there, and taqra'u is either here or it could also be here, right? That would help me translate it and say it's either she is reading or you are reading, and this means all of you people read, right? So you need that to be able to do your, this is what I mean here, the tenses and the pronouns. With pronouns, also another thing, we might get connected to pronouns, but no time to talk about that. The other thing is another technical thing. تعدي واللزوم, which is a technical term. I use the Arabic term because Arabic term is actually easier than English. And the English term is transitive and intransitive, which no one really knows what it means. Let me quickly explain, going back here. Now, if he uses the word, actually, wait. Let me not explain. Let's go through these examples. وَمَنْ يَرْغَبُ عَنْ مِلَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِلَّا مَنْ سَفِهَ نَفْسَهُ. And who would something the religion of Ibrahim, except one who made a fool of himself. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to look up the word يَرْغَبُ, right, and try to put a translation in according to Hans Wehr. What's the root for يَرْغَبُ? I'm going to answer myself and put in the word رَغِبَ. All right, so here we have رَغِبَ, and nice. And I'm going to put, see, رَغِبَ يَرْغَبُ with the fatha, رَغْبَ or رَغْب, there's the masdar. And what I'm going to do is, you see, for رَغِبَ, I have all of these different meanings here. It's a level 1 verb. So I have all of these level meanings here, and I have to choose one of them. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the harf jar after it, right? And that's going to help me choose the right meaning. Because رَغِبَ is actually one of these strange things in Arabic where, look, it means to desire, and then later on it's going to say to dislike or to detest or to loathe, to have a distaste, right? And if you look at the after يَرْغَبُ عَنْ, and if we look for the use of the harf jar an, right, it only has an for dislike, loathe, distaste, right? And the other ones are fi or min or ila. So يَرْغَبُ عَنْ, I'm going to choose this meaning, to dislike. So whoever or detest will probably be a better one. So, and who would detest, or let's say loathe the religion of Ibrahim, except one who makes a fool of himself. Okay, so that's the translation we're gonna put there. Obviously, we can play around. Anyway, that's important. Looking at the harf jar that comes after it, right? That's what I mean by this harf jar part. All right. ولا يأتونك بمثل إلا جئناك بالحق أحسن تفسيرا. I've taken out the translation of يأتونك or لا يأتونك. Right? So how would I look that up? Oh, I'm going to run out of time. I'm going to go a little bit overhead and just finish these examples. Right? So you're going to have to just bear with me a little bit over. But I'm going to start to speed with these examples. يأتونك, right? The root letters here. Hamza, I apologize for the speed. Hamza, ta, and ya. Right? Ta, wa or ya, right? So let me try looking that up in Hans Wehr. So yeah. And here we go. Ata. Yatu naka. Now, there's two notes here. There's a ka, which is a dhamir. Yatuna, and then the ka is a dhamir. And then there's a harf jar ba after it. There's a dhamir, and this dhamir is basically what we call maf'ul bihi. Right? This is something that is acting directly upon. But there's also a harf jar. So to get the most accurate translation, I'm going to find something that has a ha, which is a dhamir, plus a ba. Right? So here that has a ha, or ila, no, ha or ila. It has ata bi, but it doesn't have a. And then here it has ata bi, ata ha bi, which is what we're looking for. Ata, and it has a dhamir, it has a maf'ul bihi. It doesn't have to be dhamir, it can be maf'ul bihi. And then it has a ba. So to bring or to offer someone something, right? So that's what it means, to offer someone something. It's what ata with a maf'ul bihi and a ba mean. That's to get the most accurate translation, right? So, and they do not. I got they because yatuna, that's the conjugation. The la comes from do not. They do not bring to you. Hunaka, the ka is the you. But where did I get the bring to? I got the bring to from the translation, to bring or to offer. So, bring to you an example. وَلَا يَأْتُونَكَ بِمَثَلٍ. They do not bring to you an example, except that we bring to you the truth. All right? أَوْفُوا بِالْعُقُودِ. I'm going to skip that example. The asl of the word is ataya. right? Or ata, right? Like means to come. Right? Look at the first meaning, the most common meaning is sakat, come. Like I'll say ataytu, or the beginning of Surah An-Nahl, ata amrullahi, the amr of Allah has come, right? We're going to skip the next example because I want to do the next two, or the next three, right? عن ابي هريره قال ما اذن الله لشيء ما اذن بان يتغنى بالقران قال سفيان تفسيره يستغني به. Okay, so I put the whole translation in. Radiallahu anhu narrated, Prophet we're just going to go to the second part. We're going to be running out of time. Sufyan said, tafsiruhu, the tafsir is that the Prophet, it's a prophet that the Quran suffices him. Yastaghni bihi, yastaghni bil Quran, right? It makes him forget the rest of the world, and that's all he needs, right? So, but I'm going to look at what the words tafsiruhu, like what I say, the exegesis of that is. What does that mean? Now, how would I look up tafsiru? We said before it would be fasara, right? Look up the word fasara. Now, I could look it up and try to extract it from the level 2 verb, but it actually have the word tafsir, the explanation, the elucidation, the commentary, interpretation. So that I'm going to use one of those words and the words that best fits. You see how the first ones, they're all synonymous. Explanation, elucidation, interpretation, they're all synonymous. Commentary is another one. Quranic exegesis is another usage of it. I'm going to say let's say the explanation or the interpretation is. Interpretation of that is. Or tafsiruhu, interpretation of that is. That's how. Whatever, don't know. That's how I would explain it. Is دخلت على جابر وهو يموت. So this I think it's a tabi'i, bin Munkadir. Goes to the Sahabi. Jabir radiallahu anhu passed away very late. So Muhammad bin Munkadir is definitely a tabi'i. And he says to Jabir when he's about to pass away, اقرأ على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم السلام. So when he says اقرأ على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم السلام. So how would I translate this? And this was the figurative usage that we're looking for. قرأ عليه السلام. I wouldn't say read the salam to the Prophet. Or we could translate in our sort of slang usage, convey the salams, but we would say greet, or you could say pass my salam, as we say pass my salam, right? The Prophet Messenger of Allah. The last one is a really nice bait. The poem is actually very nice by Nizar Qabdani. He's a sort of modern poet. His poetry, I'm not exactly sure about the timing. Actually. It might be a little bit late. He's the sort of poet the Hans Wehr would have taken from. So this is like the modern poetry, the modern usages that we'd like, right? So he's وَشَعْرُكِ مُلْقًا عَلَى كَفَتَيْكِ كَبَحْرٍ كَأَبْعَادِ لَيْلٍ مُبَعْثَرٍ. So let's try to translate the word مُبَعْثَرٍ, right? So, and it's talking about a lady. Your hair is thrown back on your shoulder, مُلْقًا عَلى كَفَتَيْكِ كَبَحْرٍ, like an ocean, كَأَبْعَادِ لَيْلٍ, like the depth or the furthest reaches of the night. Now, how do we translate the word مُبَعْثَرٍ? We actually took this word before, intentionally put it before, and we would search up the root. Ba-ain tha-ra. It's a 4-letter root. If you looked up the word ba'atha without the ra, then it would be fine as well, right? And you can see the verb ba'thara. It's actually a 4-letter verb, so it has a verb to it, to scatter. But we're looking at the word muba'thar, right? And here's the actual word muba'thar. Scattered, widespread. Now note this usage. It says tousled, and it talks about hair, right? Now just think about, it says scattered, widespread, or a second usage, which is tousled hair. How would we translate this? Could I say the depth of the night, which is scattered, or the depths of the night, which is widespread? Or should I try to use the word tousled? Right? I would use the word tousled, right? Now, it just like the hair's messy, right? But unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to translate it in this part. The way see the poem meant to rhyme. So you use the word mubathar. Mubathar is a description, or it's probably hal of sha'r. Like your hair is all messy. It's going back on your shoulders and it's all messy, but it's like the ocean. It's like the dip. So we don't use the word tousled. We'd have to translate it and probably put it here. Your hair is tousled, going back on your shoulder in the translation, right? So this is the word order and stuff like that. So this is like a sort of challenging translation thing that sort of highlights one of the features of Hans Wehr, that it's actually very useful translating modern things. Now, if you want to get to translating classical texts, Laing's lexicon was written like 100 years or 50 years before, more than 50 years, 100 years before Hans Wehr. And he translates the ancient dictionaries. So he'll have all the classical usages. That's if you want to translate. However, on your Arabic journey, you want to eventually get to the point where you're able to use Arabic dictionaries. The first one that you want to use is al-Mu'jam al-Wasit, which is also modern, 1960, from the Arabic Institute in Qahira. And that's probably what you want to use because it's also very easy. It's not going to go in a lot of depth and make you very uncomfortable. It's still suitable for like an intermediate Arabic student. Okay, so that's the first dictionary. You might want to get out and use an app to search it. And Mu'jam al-Wasit. And then the next version of it is Qamus al-Muhit. Mu'jam al-Wasit actually takes from another dictionary, which takes from Qamus al-Muhit. So this is like going up 2 steps. Qamus al-Muhit is like Fairuz Abadi. And, it's a very, very good dictionary. And then you can go further than that, obviously, and get like much bigger dictionary. Qamus al-Muhit, you've got a copy now. It's just like you see, there's one book. Right? It's not unreasonable to search through Al-Qamus al-Muhit. Whereas if you have Taj al-Arus, which I do have some students that actually got me a copy, it's massive, right? And it's very, very in depth, and you'll find a lot of random information that you don't need, right? That's with respect to what you would use afterwards, and that's the after Hans Wehr. Like if you can't find it in Hans Wehr, I'd go to one of the two. I don't really use Laing's lexicon because I'm not a translator. I'm more into teaching Arabic or other things of Arabic, so I'd go to Mu'jam al-Wasit or Qamus al-Muhit. Important note: use of dictionaries. You shouldn't be reading something so complicated that you need to look up every word. You need to be reading something where you can look up an occasional word that you don't understand. And that's actually good because you pick up the word in usage and context. I don't support grammar translation necessarily as a way of learning Arabic. So you should try to learn Arabic in Arabic. So have teachers teaching you in Arabic. Just focus on reading instead of just translating. Don't focus on grammar so much, just focus on your ability, which is comprehensive input. Try to listen to a lot, try to read a lot. And I use Hans Wehr in lectures. So there's a lecturer who's talking and he uses a word that I don't really know. I just look it up in Hans Wehr and it helps me. If it's a key word, but you don't need to look up every word, right? You should focus on quantity. Is what comprehensive input is about. Having a lot of quantity of reading and listening. Because if you read something that's so difficult that you need to look up so many words, you're going to be sick of it after 10, 15 minutes. If you read something that's like enjoyable, like it's a nice story, and it's at your level, and you understand most words except for a few, and use the dictionary, Hans Wehr to look up a few of them, then it helps a lot. So that's it for today's seminar. I know it was rushed a little bit because there's a lot to get through, but I hope that it was detailed. If you have any questions, I'll take questions, inshallah. There was one question that brother or sister SS asked, how do you find the masdar? All right, so let me answer that first. But if you have more questions, feel free to write in the chat box, I'll get to it. And if you need to leave as well, then feel free to leave. That's the end of the official seminar, but we'll go through question now. All right, how do you find the masdar? So your level 1 masdar is given to you in brackets here, the beginning of the entry. Okay. Now your level 2, the 10 masdar, sometimes is given here. For example, here's a level 10 masdar that was given, right? Now, it's not always given. So for example, if I want to find the level 4 masdar, I would have to extract it from the meaning here. To make or have read. Sorry. To make or have someone read something. It's the usage of it. To make someone read something, right? So I would have to actually use my knowledge of sarf and go back to the table. Go to the table. And say level 4, the masdar is if'al. So for aqra'a yuqri will be بإقراء. So the masdar is إقراء, and that would mean to make someone read something, or one of the other meanings. Okay. I know that's a bit rushed, but hopefully that helps. Would I recommend Qasas al-Nabiyyin for beginners? Yes. But I don't recommend that you necessarily force yourself to read the whole thing, because for some reason I found that Abu Hassan Nadwi, rahimahullah, and he does a very, very good job. Maybe a third or half of the way through the book, he starts to, he's an adib, he's got very flowy, strong Arabic. So he starts to up the ante a lot, and then you find that all of a sudden you have to look up a lot of words. It helps a lot. Qasas al-Nabiyyin is amazing because it's comprehensible import in the sense that you know the story already. So it's an excellent primer, but don't only read Qasas al-Nabiyyin. Some people think, I have to read the whole thing, it's like 300 pages, and I'm not going to read anything else. If you start to find it difficult, move to something else. And later on, come back to it when you reach a high level. Abu Hassan Nadwi also has a book, Darat al-Rashida, very good. There's a series of books called Sahl Away. There's a lot of, there's a really good website called Asafir in Arabic. And it has a kid's book. Yeah, I'll bring it up actually. It has a premium version. As a premium version, but you can just use it for free as well. It's called Asafir, right? And you can just like go to books and it will read out the book for you, right? And it's just kids' book. You read out the actual books, like random, it's got pictures. You'll be able to understand generally from the pictures, right? And just increase the quantity of your reading. Yeah. So every fi'l has a masdar. Yes, it does have, every fi'l does have a masdar. Sometimes it has more than one masdar as well, as we saw in Raghiba, and there are many other examples. Were there any other questions? All right, Jazakumullah khairan everyone for your attendance. And I hope that this webinar was beneficial and it helps you in your Arabic journey. And inshallah, stay tuned for future webinars. سبحانك الله بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.